Hello and welcome to Substitute Sandman. This is episode 1, The Pied Piper of Hamlin. A very long time ago, the town of Hamlin in Germany was invaded by a band of rats, the likes of which had never been seen before, nor will ever be seen again. They were great black creatures which ran boldly in broad daylight through the streets and swarmed all over houses, so that people at last could not put hand or foot down anywhere without touching one. When dressing in the morning, they found rats in their breeches and petticoats, and in their pockets and their boots, and when they wanted a morsel to eat, the voracious horde had swept away everything from the cellar to garret. The night time was even worse. As soon as the lights were out, these untiring nibblers set to work. And everywhere, in the ceilings, in the floors, in the cupboards, at the doors, there was a chase and a rummage, and so furious the noise of giblets, pincers, and saws that a deaf man could not rest for even 1 hour. Neither cats, nor dogs, nor poison, nor traps, nor prayers, nor candles burned to all the saints. Nothing did any good. The more rats they killed, the more came. But one Friday, there arrived in the town a man with a queer face, who played the bagpipes and sang this refrain: "Whoever lives shall see, this is he, the rat-catcher." He was a tall, gawky fellow, dry and bronzed, with a crooked nose, a long rat-tail mustache, 2 great yellow, piercing, and mocking eyes under a large felt hat, set off by a scarlet cock's feather. He was dressed in a green jacket, with a leather belt and orange breeches, and on his feet were sandals, fastened by thongs, and passed around his legs, in the gypsy fashion. That is how he may be seen to this day, painted on a window of the Cathedral of Hamlin. He stopped in the great marketplace, before the town hall, and turned his back to the church, and went on with his music, singing, "Whoever lives shall see, this is he, the rat-catcher." The town council had just assembled to consider once more this plague of Egypt, from which no one could save the town. The stranger sent word to the councillors that if they would make it worth his while, he would rid them of all their rats before night fell. "Then he is a sorcerer," cried the citizens with one voice. "We must beware of him." The chief town councillor, who was considered clever, reassured them. He said, "Sorcerer or not, if this bagpiper speaks the truth, it was he who sent us this horrible vermin he wants to rid us of today for money. Well, we must learn to catch the devil in his own snares. You leave it to me." "Leave it to the town councillor," said the citizens, one to another. And the stranger was brought before them. "Before night," he said, "I shall have dispatched all the rats in Hamlin, if you will but pay me a shilling a head." "A shilling a head?" cried the citizens. "But that will come to millions of thaler." The town's councillor simply shrugged his shoulders, and said to the stranger, "A bargain. The rats will be paid for at 1 shilling a head, as you wish." The bagpiper announced that he would begin that very evening when the moon rose. He added that the inhabitants should at that hour leave the streets free, and content themselves with looking out of their windows at the pleasant spectacle that was passing. When the people of Hamlin heard the bargain, they too exclaimed, "A shilling a head? But this will cost us a deal of money." "Leave it to the town councillor," said the town council with malicious air. And the good people of Hamlin repeated, "Leave it to the town councillor." Towards evening, the bagpiper reappeared in the marketplace. At first he turned his back to the church, and the moment the moon rose on the horizon, the bagpipes resounded. Tra-re-ra, tra-ree. It was first a slow, caressing sound, then more and more lively and urgent, and so sonorous and piercing that it penetrated the furthest alleys and retreats of the town. Soon, from the bottom of the cellars, the top of the garrets, from all furniture, and from all nooks and corners of the houses, came the rats, searching for the door, flinging themselves into the street, and trip, 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 they began to run in a file towards the front of the town hall. so squeezed together that they covered the pavement like waves of a flooded torrent. While the square was quite full, the bagpiper faced about, and, still playing briskly, turned towards the river that ran at the foot of the walls of Hamlin. Arriving there, he turned around, and the rats were following. "Hop, hop!" he cried, pointing to his finger at the middle of the stream, where the water whirled and was drawn down as if through a funnel. And hop, hop, without hesitating, the rats took the leap and swam straight to the funnel, plunged in head foremost, and disappeared. The plunging continued thus without ceasing till midnight. At last, dragging himself with difficulty, came a big rat, white with age, who stopped on the bank. It was the king of the band. "Are they all there, friend Blanket?" asked the bagpiper. "They are all there," replied the white rat. "And how many were there?" 990,999. "Well reckoned?" "Well reckoned." "Then go and join them, old sire, and au revoir." And the old rat sprang in his turn into the river, swam to the whirlpool, and disappeared. When the bagpiper had thus concluded his business, he went to bed at his inn, and for the first time in 3 months, the people of Hamlin slept quietly through the night. The next morning at 9 o'clock, the bagpiper appeared at the town hall, where the town council awaited him. "All your rats took a jump into the river yesterday," he said to the councillors, "and I guarantee that not one of them comes back. There were 990,999, at a shilling a head, reckon." "Let us reckon the heads first." 1 shilling a head is 1 head the shilling. But where are the heads?" The piper did not expect this treacherous stroke. He paled with anger. His eyes flashed fire. The heads!" cried he. "If you cared about them, go and find them in the river." "So," replied the chief councillor, "you refuse to honor the terms of your agreement. We ourselves could refuse you all payment, but you have been of use to us, and we will not let you go without a recompense." With this, he offered him 50 thaler. "Keep your recompense for yourself," replied the piper proudly. "If you do not pay me, I will be paid by your heirs." Thereupon he pulled his hat down over his eyes, and went hastily out of the hall, and left the town without speaking to a soul. When the people of Hamlin heard how the affair had ended, they rubbed their hands, and, with no more scruple than their own town's councillors, laughed about his bagpiper, who they said had been caught in his own trap. But what made them laugh above all was his threat of getting himself paid by their heirs. Ha! They wished they could only have such creditors for the rest of their lives. Next day, which was a Sunday, they went gaily to church, thinking that afterwards they would at least be able to eat some good things that the rats had not tasted before them. They had never suspected that terrible surprise that had awaited them on their return home. No children anywhere. They had all disappeared. "Our children! Where are our poor children?" was the cry that was soon heard in all the streets. Then, through the east gate of the town came 3 little boys who cried and wept, and this was the story they told. While their parents were at church, a wonderful music had sounded in the streets. Soon, all the little boys and little girls who had been left at home, attracted by the magic sounds, had gone out to the great marketplace. There they found the piper, playing his bagpipes. Then the stranger started to walk quickly, and they followed, running, singing, and dancing to the sound of the music, as far as the foot of the mountain which one sees on entering Hamlin. At their approach, the mountain had opened a little, and the bagpiper had gone in with them, after which it closed again. Only the 3 little ones who told of the adventure had remained outside, as if by a miracle. One was lame and could not run fast enough. The second, who had left his house in haste, 1 foot shod, the other bare, had hurt himself against a big stone and could scarcely walk. The third had arrived on time, but while hurrying to go in, had struck so violently against the wall of the mountain that he fell backwards at the momentum, as it closed upon his comrades. Hearing the story, the parents redoubled their lamentations. They ran with pikes and mattocks to the mountain and searched till evening to find the opening through which their children had disappeared, without success. At last, the night falling, they returned, desolate, to Hamlin. But the most unhappy was the town councillor, who bargained with the piper, for he had lost 3 boys and 2 girls, and to crown all, the people of Hamlin overwhelmed him with reproaches, forgetting that the day before they had agreed with him. What had become of these unfortunate children? Their parents always hoped they were not dead, and that the piper, who certainly must have come out of the mountain, would have taken them with him to his own country. That is why, for several years, they sent in search of them to different countries. But no one ever found a trace of the poor little ones. It was not till much later that anything was to be heard. About 150 years after the events, where there were no longer any fathers and mothers, brothers or sisters of that day left, there arrived one evening in Hamlin some merchants of Bremen, returning from the east, who had asked to speak to the citizens. They told how, in crossing Hungary, they had sojourned in a mountainous country called Transylvania, where the inhabitants spoke only German, while all around them nothing was spoken but Hungarian. These people also declared that they came from Germany, but did not know how they changed to be in this strange country. Now, said the merchants of Bremen, these Germans could not be other than the descendants of the lost children of Hamlin. The people of Hamlin did not doubt it, and since that day they have regarded it as certain that the Transylvanians of Hungary and their countryfolk, whose ancestors as children were taken from Hamlin by the bagpiper. There are more difficult things to believe than that. And that's the end of the Pied Piper of Hamlin. Now, the story was credited to the collection of Charles Morales and Andrew Lang. I believe I'm reading that correctly, but I could be mistaken. Anyways, the soundtrack was by me. Narration also by me. The story is from The World's Best Fairy Tales, one that's compiled by... Well, I'm not going to try and read this live, so I'll leave their names in the description below. If you do enjoy this, please consider subscribing and clicking the like button, just to let me know that this is something you guys enjoy. Now the next one will be Snow White and the Rose Red. If you want to stick around for that, make sure you put the bell notifications on, so you'll be ready for when I post the next story. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Substitute Sandman. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time.